Nerve Gaming, www.youtube.com/nervegaming1337.
Hi guys, and welcome to episode 7 from Nerve Gaming. I'm going to be taking a short break from doing the how-to guides from Kraga's Palace hard mode to give you a guide on how to do Lost Island hard mode, the new flashpoint. The reason I'm doing this is because I've seen a lot of posts on the Star Wars forums saying it's pretty much impossible to do, people saying it needs nerfing, and I just wanted to show just how easy it is with the correct tactics. So as always guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below. Right guys, the first boss, he's fairly simple. It's pretty much tank and spank. All you have to do is keep off the yellow targets on the floor. If there's any ads still alive when you engage the boss, just make sure you finish those off and then start DPSing the boss, avoiding the yellow circles. And that is literally it for the first boss guys. Right guys, boss 2 is where it gets a bit more complicated. The boss has got two main abilities. One's called Incinerate and one's called Plasma Arc. The Incinerate will be cast on anyone in front of him. It's a channeled ability, and if the boss is able to finish his channel, he would have done in total 20 to 25,000 damage, so that must be interrupted. The boss also does lightning shields on the floor. He'll target a random person and put a lightning shield on them. You just move away from it. Now this is where the Plasma Arc cast that he does comes into play. When he casts the Plasma Arc, he will increase the size of the lightning shields. So you need to try and interrupt those as much as possible. The positioning we had here, we had me on the left hand side, the other ranged DPS on the right hand side, and the healer in the middle, and the boss was tanked on the middle platform. Now the reason for this was if one of us ranged got the lightning shield, we basically just swapped to our same position but at the other end of the room. Also, as you can see, there are grills in the floor. From time to time he will spawn lava which will shoot up through them. You'll be able to see in advance which ones are going to have the lava coming out of them or not. This fight's more about surviving guys, it's not a real DPS race. The boss will also spawn away 2 waves of ads, I think we got. I think it's on a time basis. All we did was get the tank to taunt them, AoE them down on top of the boss, and that's it guys. Boss 3 guys is pretty much just a mini boss. He does a charge effect to anyone that's standing at range from him. So all we literally do is just group up on the boss and just burn him down, tank and spank. Pretty simple guys. Boss number 4, guys, has got two main abilities. Two main phases. The first phase is when you first engage him, it's tank and spank for a large portion of this phase. You'll see him start casting a smash ability. Now when he does that, everyone needs to group up on the boss. Anyone that's not grouped up on the boss will get chucked up in the air and off the edge. You group up on him, so when he does his smash, you go straight up into the air and then land back down. The second phase is when he goes up onto his platforms. There are 3 buttons around the room. We designated the 2 DPS one and the tank one, and left the healer free in the middle to heal. You click the button, it's a 9-second cast. Now while you cast damage to everyone, also he's chucking poison sacks at people, so it can get quite healing intensive. Now the idea of the buttons, guys, is when you push the button, it shoots flames at the top of the pillars that bring the boss back down to the ground. Now as soon as you burn him with flames on top of the pillar, it's basically rinse and repeat them same 2 phases over and over again, guys. An important big thing to note though is when you group up to do his smash, make sure you group up just behind him. If you group up in front of him, when you land, if you land in front of him, he claps his hands together and does AoE damage. Now I've done this fight on my bounty hunter as DPSing and my operative as a healer, and I found that as a healing it can get really hard to heal when people are taking unnecessary damage. Also, the boss does a belly flop attack and just like knocks the tank backwards, so they need to make sure that they're not at the edge of the platform, otherwise they're going down in the lava. Right guys, boss 5 is a bonus boss. This fight, same as the first one really, pretty much tank and spank for a large portion of the fight. You'll see him do an emote about 15-20 seconds into the fight, saying he's shattering the floor. Now when he does that, he'll start dropping icicles down. Now the icicles land wherever you were standing when they started falling, so all you do is run. Just keep running and you won't get hit by them. Also the boss puts a slowing debuff on you during this phase, so even though you are walking slowly, you're still walking fast enough to move away from the damage from the icicles. You repeat that probably 2 to 3 times, them 2 phases, and the boss is dead, guys. Get your loot and yeah, get your tokens. Right guys, boss 6. For me, I found this one of the most enjoyable fights in this new Flashpoint. It's the last boss. He's got 3 main phases. The first phase, you have the tank get aggro on him where he stands. The boss will then stick a target under all the ranged DPS's feet, and I'm assuming melee. I've never got in ever melee. Puts the target underneath their feet. They need to quickly move off these targets as the boss will chuck a poison bomb to where they're standing. Now, it doesn't do a lot of damage to start off with, but every debuff you get from this poison bomb, it stacks and it starts doing a lot of damage. Now, the boss will do this twice in a row. Then, once he's done that, he'll give an emote saying, "I have a trick up my sleeve." Now, when he does that, he'll put 5 bombs on the main tank and anyone else standing in front of him, and then he'll go hide in one of his test tubes. The DPS need to nuke the test tube down as fast as possible to get the boss back out, and the healer needs to spam heal the tank, because these 5 bombs will detonate and they do between 5 to 7k damage each, so it is a lot of healing needed. Now, once the test tube's been killed, the boss will respawn, and he'll also spawn an ad. You have the rest of the DPS kill the ad, and then it's straight back onto the boss. And you repeat that phase until you hit phase 2, which I think is at 60%. I'm not quite sure, I wasn't paying that much attention. I was too busy avoiding poison bombs. In phase 2, guys, the boss will no longer have an aggro attack people. Now, when he attacks that person, he's got a channeled attack. Now, you can break that by hitting any Will of the Force, or I can't remember any other classes ones. Determination, that's the one for the bounty hunters. You can hit your abilities like that to break the CC that he's put you under and stop the damage you're taking. Also, the tank can taunt as much as possible to get the boss off anyone else. While this is also going on, there are lots of raggles that are being spawned around the room, and they randomly aggro people. Now, they walk quite slow and they leave a fire trail behind them. If they reach you, they will stun you and start burning you, and you're pretty much dead. So just keep away from them as much as possible while burning down the boss. Now, as soon as the boss's health hits 0 in phase 2, he then goes back to his original form, and this is where it gets a little bit harder because it turns into a DPS race. In phase 3, everyone needs to group up on the boss, because he'll do an AoE poison cloud, and it starts off with it doesn't hit that hard, but over time it gets harder and harder and harder. So healing gets harder and harder and harder. So it's DPS race, burn him down before his AoE does too much damage. And that's pretty much it, guys. We pretty much one-shotted every boss in here, except for the first boss, the second boss, which took us 2 to 3 attempts just to fine-tune the tactics. Me and the other DPS had been in here once before, where the healer, Lockerstep, and Tank Morbius hadn't been in here before. This was their first time, and yeah, it went pretty smoothly, no real problems. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, and you found it useful, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below, guys. Cheers for watching.